Yes, I am well aware of the parallels between the Odyssey and a well-known other bag manufacturer. No, I will not be talking about that in this video. This is not a one-to-one comparison video. I only have one bag from the other manufacturer and it is much smaller in size, so I personally cannot draw a one-to-one comparison anyway. I may reference the other company briefly, but just in passing. Feel free to leave me any comments that you wish. I do read them all. Good afternoon, everybody. What is going on? I am Jeffgrantmedia, and today's real user review, we'll be taking a look at the No Surrender Gear Odyssey backpack. Now, full disclosure straight up front, I am not being paid to say anything positive or negative about this bag. I did receive the bag for free so I could review it and give my thoughts on the bag, see what works, see what doesn't work, is it worth your money, should they keep making the bag? So yeah, bag was sent to me for free, but no, I am not being paid to say anything positive about this bag. Everything I will talk about in this review are my own thoughts and opinions, so feel free to make your own. Now, let's get into it, and we're going to start with a quick spec rundown. The No Surrender Gear Odyssey bag comes in chartreuse with a teal or aqua interior and accent color, a blackout, which is all black outside and inside, and an OD that has an orange accent and interior. The bag retails for $230 USD. The bag is a 35-liter capacity. All of the Odyssey colorways are made from a 1000D nylon, and they all feature a laser cut molly, YKK zips, UTX buckles, and they all have an adjustable harness and removable hip belt. There is a flannel lined sunglass pocket, a hydration bladder, and a dedicated laptop sleeve with external access. And with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into the real user review. And as always, we're going to go ahead and start with the negative so we can end on a positive note. Now we're going to start with the outside of the bag. And the very first thing we're going to talk about, this little grommet right here. It poses a bit of a problem for me. Now, generally that grommet is placed there for a bag that you're gonna get wet, like a bag you're gonna use for rucking. It's for drainage. So if you're going to be specifically crawling around in the mud and this bag's going to get filled with water because you're using it for an event, yes, you want that grommet on the bottom because that's going to let all that water and muck drain out of the bag. But for everything else, you don't want the grommet there because now if I'm out for a hike and it's raining or snowing and I set this bag down, anything I set this on, if it's moisture, like when I went for a day hike in the snow, I set this bag down in the snow, there's potential for that moisture to come inside the bag and get everything inside the bag wet. So that grommet, I don't like it there, but I did speak to No Surrender Gear about this, so they are aware of it and they're probably going to take care of it. Sticking with the outside of the bag, we're going to move into the lid zipper. It does open super easy, but when you go to close the bag, sometimes you get a nice clean zip, but sometimes, of course this time it works perfect, but sometimes you get stuck right here. This is the piping from the inside of the bag, and it actually comes together. There's 3 points from the side pocket, the top lid, and then the flap to the front of the lid all come together at this one point here, and it makes it very, very stiff. So sometimes the zipper does come up higher than it, but you can see if I release the zipper, it sticks up. So every once in a while, you'll kind of be zipping and you'll actually hit. Right now, of course, it's not going to do it, but you'll get stuck right at this point because the piping will stick up a little bit higher. It does do that on both sides of the bag. Generally, when you're zipping it, the side that you're zipping first is where you're gonna have an issue, and then it kind of helps the bag, the lid lay over the bag, and the second side usually zips no problem. Now, it's a pretty quick and easy fix. All they simply really need to do is get this piping and maybe take a little bit of a nosedive down, or if they could, maybe even tack it down so it doesn't stick up. because in other bags that I've used, it's not an issue in other tri-zips. The way that it's just designed, I think it's just, you got 3 points coming together, just making it very stiff. So what I've been doing is normally when I go to zipper it, is I just kind of flop the lid over, and that kind of gets the zipper past it. And you can kind of just drag your finger along the zip, and that'll kind of help push it in. And usually the second side is a non-issue. And again, it's usually just the first side you zip, because both sides are the same. The piping comes to the same point because each of the wings of the inside of the bag mirror each other. So usually once you get that first side zip, it kind of pulls it all together, and the second side's a non-issue. And once you're doing it after a while, I mean, I just kind of close it. I just kind of flop the lid over, I kind of run my finger, and it kind of helps to push that piping in. So after a while, it's just something that I just muscle memory worked around. But in the beginning, it kept getting caught and kept getting zipped. It was a bit frustrating, but after a little while, I easily got over it. Moving on to the next point, the admin pocket. Now you'll notice the way that my bag zips from the bottom to the top. I will talk about that a little bit later on, so we're gonna move past that right now. But the main issue I have with the admin panel are these 2 pen or pencil little slit pockets here. As you can see, I just have my pens and Sharpies organized in one of the slit pockets that are on the inside of the admin panel, and that's because these kind of get in the way. You'll notice the head of the pen, it kind of sticks up past the zipper, so it kind of gets in the way of the zip. So if the zipper came from top to the bottom, which normally it's supposed to, it might help to push the pen back in as you zip the bag from the bottom up. But even still, I feel like these are in a bad spot. So I would simply just totally remove these little slits, make this little mesh pocket a little bit bigger, and it would give you a lot more room to fit your cell phone in there. Because I have an iPhone X, so it's kind of big, but it's not one of the max versions, so the max version would be much larger, and that definitely will not fit. Yes, my phone is struggling a little bit, but that's because I have a silicone case over it. So without that silicone case, my phone would actually slide in and out of this pocket very, very easily. But if you actually just made this little mesh pocket just a little bit bigger, it could accommodate larger cell phones. I'm not very familiar with Android, so I don't know how large most of those are, but I know some of the iPhone Max versions, they're not gonna fit in there. Maybe they would if you made that pocket just a little bit bigger. And then if you put the slots across the top of the admin panel on the inside, then you can actually get more slots in there, and you can have a little bit more organization. Moving on, the laptop compartment. The placement of the zipper is less than ideal because now you have to slide your laptop in and then pull back the rest of the zipper to fold the laptop back underneath and then zip it up. Yes, it fits my 15-inch MacBook Pro with no problem, and there's plenty of room for additional models of computers. There's plenty of space. Just if they move the zipper along the seam, but if they just move the zipper along the seam, access in and out of the bag would just be so much easier. And again, I spoke to No Surrender Gear about this already, and they are aware of the issue. And again, if they do a future, and I have spoke to No Surrender Gear about this, and they are aware of this issue. So in any future V2s of this bag or any iterations of the tri-zip, they're going to actually move that to the seam to pretty much make that a non-issue for any future versions. And now let's move to the inside of the bag. We're gonna start right here with the water bladder hanger. Now, it's this little loop here. It's sewn on the front half, so if you attach your water bladder, you'll tuck this in, but now water's heavy and it's gonna pull down. So it's gonna crumple the bag right here, and it's gonna pull it down. So if you simply took this strap and attached it back here along the frame sheet, it's gonna be a non-issue because it can't pull down because there's the frame sheet for the back of the bag is right here. So take this loop, pop it here, and then it's a non-issue. And again, I spoke to them about it and they're aware of that situation. The other negative is this pocket here. Now, I love pockets everywhere because it grants you a lot more organization. But this cord, it's not a shock cord. So what happens is when you're trying to stuff stuff inside this bag, it actually catches on this. So you have to remember to always cinch it in so it's tighter across the bag. So when you're stuffing things down, it's not gonna get caught on this. The two simple solutions would be either make this shock cord so it would automatically pull itself back in, or you could you could just remove this pocket altogether. I do use it, but I didn't use it enough that if it wasn't there, I'd totally be missing it. So either make this some shock so it would automatically pull itself in and you just elastic, boop, boop, pull it back in. But that's the biggest issue for the inside of the bag was this right here. And that's it for the negatives. Some of them are worse than the others. None of them are a deal breaker. But we're gonna move into 2 quick neutral points and then we'll move into the positives. We'll start with these inside pockets that are pass-through. I haven't actually found a legitimate use for them being passed through. One video, a guy said they're for like a trekking pole. So if you had a trekking pole, you could stick them through, it would keep them in, but they could stick out the top of the bag so they're organized. But usually you attach your trekking poles to the outside of the bag, and with a lot of MOLLE, and especially with the MOLLE on the bottom of the bag, that's a non-issue. So what I would personally prefer is just have these attached. So then I have an extra pocket here. So I have a zipper pocket and then a dump pocket here. I think that would just be a much better use of the inside space. And the next neutral point is my admin panel. I said I would talk about this a little bit later on, but you can see my zipper, it comes bottom to top. That would present a problem if you wanted to, you know, just kind of reach in and grab something, or if anything came loose, if it zipped that way, everything would fall out. So that's bad. But this isn't supposed to be this way. This slip past QC, the zipper is actually supposed to be up top. It's supposed to zipper down, not zipper up. So mine is actually a fluke. I did talk to them about it and they said, oh, that must have slipped past QC. It's supposed to actually come the other way. After they saw my first impressions video, they said, yeah, let people know that the zipper is actually supposed to unzip top down, not bottom up. Okay, we're done with the negatives, we're done with the neutral points. Let's head on into the positives. And again, we're gonna start with the outside of the bag. And we're gonna start right here with this MOLLE webbing. Now you can see all of this webbing is laser cut. So it makes it very functional without giving it that military look that actual webbing would give you. So you could still utilize all of these like you would with any MOLLE attachments, but you don't have that full-on military look. So it doesn't look super tactical when you're EDCing this bag at the coffee shop or at the office. In addition, you can see it is stitched and reinforced across the whole top and bottom of it. So you don't really have to worry about it pulling through and your stuff just ripping and falling off because it's laser cut and it's not a webbing. And you can see the teal liner underneath the bag, which kind of just adds a little accent and makes the color pop a little bit more. And the next positive, which might be more of a personal thing for me, but I love this large morale patch area. I mean, I still have plenty of room to really fill this thing up. And I really like to cover things in stickers. That's my first guitar. I got that when I was like 15 or 16. And it actually used to be covered with a lot more stickers, but a lot of them fell off over time. But I like this because now I can really personalize the bag myself. I can make this my bag. I can put my own little touches. I put the Spitfire head on just about everything growing up as a skater kid. That was my favorite. I still only skate Spitfire wheels. I have the logo tattooed on my body. It was my very first tattoo when I was 18. But I love that I can throw all of my own pieces of flair on this bag and really make it my own. And you could still take them off and make it a little bit more low-key. Now the next thing we're gonna talk about is grommets again, but this one's a positive because this one's in the bottom of the water bottle pocket, which is a place you want drainage on a backpack. And this is quite a large water bottle pocket. While we're talking about it, you can easily fit a 32-ounce Nalgene bottle in here. And I actually was keeping my gimbal, my Moza gimbal in this while I was hiking, and we also stuck my daughter's juice cup. So this had a gimbal in it, not a big one, it's a cell phone gimbal, but it had the Moza, I think it's the Moza Genie gimbal in it, and a fairly large juice cup for my daughter. And I think there was probably a dog leash in there too at one point. We took the dog off the leash when we were in the backwoods. So we had a gimbal, a leash, and a juice cup all in this water bottle pocket. So it's big, and it has a cord, and this one is a bit of shock cord, so this would be the cord I would recommend to use on the inside of the bag. But the shock cord is great because it does help to kind of pull it in. It doesn't cinch it in a ton, but it does kind of pull the actual bottle pocket a little closer to the body when you're not using it, so it's not just hanging wide open even if you forget to cinch it down. And you can always cinch it down to keep, you know, your water bottle from bouncing around a little bit. So I like this. I've just been leaving it open so I don't have a big tail, because it does, the shock cord itself does do a fairly good job at keeping it close enough to the body. Back to the other side of the bag. We'll talk about the admin panel again, quick and brief, because it's just there. It's super quick access to get everything that I need. If I need a pen, if I need to keep I was keeping my hard drive in here, if I wanted to keep a little journal in here, if I needed to take any quick notes, everything was organized right in here. Super quick, super easy. So I like that it's on the outside. I don't have to go into the bag and dig for anything. It's all on the outside. I can get to it super quick, and I can access it and close the bag up super, super fast. I really like that there are 2 pockets on the lid. I don't wear sunglasses, so when I carry my camera, this for me is the absolute perfect pocket to throw camera batteries in. It's nice, it's always quick and accessible because people like to take their sunglasses on and off fast. So it's always in a good location. So I throw my camera batteries here, and you can throw anything else in there. And then you have your larger top pocket that has plenty of space, and there's mesh so you can see what's in here from the inside of the bag. So if you kind of forgot where you stuck something and you flip the lid open, you can still kind of see into it. Speaking about the lid, this is one of my favorite features of the bag. The lid flaps all the way open. So now I can see inside the bag. I can see directly down. In the other tri-zip bag that I've had and used, the lid only came to about here. So I needed to hold it back with one hand to really see what's in there. The lid didn't just flip all the way back. Now that's a much smaller bag, so I don't know if it had to do with the 19 liters of size versus 35 liters of size, but this lid just makes it super easy to get in the bag. With it flipping back wide open, I can really see down into my bag. I can access everything. Everything is just quick and accessible. I can see straight into the bottom of the bag. And before we move inside, this harness is fully adjustable. It is attached via hook and loop. So the quick and easy way to adjust it is you take the frame sheet out of the harness. Looks like this. And then you just kind of put that between the harness and the bag, and you can, I'm not going to fully detach it because the harness is set where I like it. And then you could slide the harness up or down. You will slide the frame sheet back out, give it a little push, make sure it's where you want it, throw the bag on. If it's not, then you just take the frame sheet and you just knock it loose again. Once you have it, give it some good firm pressing in. We attach all of that hook and loop, and then you just take your frame sheet, and there's a little pocket for it in the back. Slide that thing back in, make sure it's tucked in all the way. Tuck everything back together, and now your frame is dialed in. And you can use your load lifters if you need to do any micro adjustments, or if you're carrying a heavier load and the bag is coming away from the body, you can just tighten your load lifters, and it helps to pull everything closer together. Now we're gonna move to the inside of the bag. Now, if you're EDCing this bag and you're not using a water bladder, you now have 1, 2, because there's a padded tablet sleeve, and 3 pockets to help you organize the internal side of your bag. And they're great for things like a journal because they lay pretty flat, so you can stick them in any of these pockets. And then once you have it organized, you just pull your cord a little tighter to help zip it, Now all of this stuff fits pretty snugly against the back of the bag, and you're not feeling it because there's a frame sheet, so this isn't going to dig into you at all, but now it's securely pushed against the back of the bag, and you still have all of this internal room for everything else. And especially people like me, because I carry 2 different journals and a book, so I really utilize all 3 of these spots, so that was great for me. Okay, those are the positives, the negatives, and the neutral points. But how does the bag actually handle? Well, I've used this bag for about a month now, maybe a little more, and I've used it in 3 main scenarios. I've used it hiking as a day pack, as an EDC, and then I also use it as like an EDC Tech pack. So let's break that down, and we'll talk a little bit about each. I started with a day hike, and I did take the hip belt off because I am personally not a hip belt fan. So this was my loadout for my day hike. The only thing missing from this picture is the snacks that we consumed on the hike or I put away when we got home, and my daddy diaper bag that includes some diapers and wipes. But you can see I fit a lot of stuff in this bag, and I still had plenty of room to spare, and even carrying water for 2 adults, 1 child, and 1 dog, the bag did not feel that heavy to me. Yes, it's 35 liters, so the bag alone has some weight to it, even empty, but even putting all of that stuff in there and liquids, that's where your weight comes in when you're hiking. It wasn't overly heavy even without that hip belt, and we did a pretty substantial hike. Even for us with a 2-year-old, we did a little bit of trailblazing because the trail that we like to take might have been close to a mile of trailblazing. We took a little loop, and then once you kind of really get into the trail, it's not there. So you're making your own way. So I was carrying a 2-year-old that weighs about 33 to 34 pounds with the pack on at the same time, and I didn't feel taxed at all. I mean, it was snowy, so I was trying to climb and not trip and slide, but I didn't feel bad. And the water is the thing that we weren't replacing as we were going. So as we went, the pack actually became lighter, and it was still comfortable. I was fine wearing it. We did a few miles that day. I feel like we ended up doing like 6 or 7 miles in that first hike. The last mile was probably on some old camp roads. They're walking back down to the car because when we came out, it came on the top of the campsite, so we just walked back down to get to the car. So that was a mile, maybe a mile and a half, probably closer to the mile, but the bag handled great. It felt fine. I did readjust the harness just a little bit after that first hike because that was my first real use of the bag, but it handled great. It did the job. It carried everything. It was comfortable. Just using the sternum strap, I didn't have any sway. It felt good. Now let's talk about my main use of this bag, which was an EDC. And here you can see my EDC loadout. This is a lot of paperwork because I'm a bit of an analog person. So yeah, I do carry a lot of actual pen and paper with me. But again, the bag felt fine. And since I work in an office building, a lot of my EDC is carrying the bag from the car to the office, from the office to the car. The handle is pretty substantial. It's not padded, so I wouldn't use it to carry the bag for a long distance, but throwing it in and out of the car, it works super, super great. And I don't usually single shoulder carry the bag because I don't carry backpacks single shoulder. It just feels awkward to me. It's not 1994. I'm not in high school trying to look cool anymore. I usually throw it on both shoulders, but on the occasion that I do single shoulder carry it on a short walk, it's plenty comfortable, even with my EDC loadout to carry it just like this. And the one other thing that I'd like to mention is for my EDC, when I'm not using the sternum strap, there's actually a female buckle on the strap. So you just take your tail and clip it in. Now I don't have the sternum strap just dangling. So when I do go to grab it, I don't have this extra strap in the way, because it doesn't always get in the way, but sometimes you grab this when you're trying to grab the strap and it just gets in the way and then it's bulky. But I like that they just simply included a little female buckle, and it's right there, you're good to go. Now, the biggest loadout that I carried was my Tech Week. Now, I don't always carry my camera and everything with me anymore. I don't film every single day, and now cell phones are much, much better than they were 4 or 5 years ago when I first started filming a lot, when I started doing YouTube. I hated my cell phone. The 10 does a fairly good job, so I will use my cell phone in a pinch. but I don't carry my camera every day. But for a week straight, I made sure I carried this tech loadout. In the bag, it was full. That camera cube you see there is a 10 bob BYOB9. I can fit my Sony a6500, my Rode VideoMic Pro, spare batteries, an extra lens, and a couple of camera straps in there, no problem. So I can easily fit that inside the bag with everything else. Yes, the bag was pretty heavy with all of that load. That was the only time I thought maybe I should be using a hip belt. But if I was going to be carrying it for a longer distance, I definitely would have strapped the hip belt on the bag and used that for the longer carries for Tech Week, because that was the heaviest the bag was. But it still carried just fine. It felt great, it felt comfortable. Yeah, it was a little heavier, but it wasn't like it was overbearing, it wasn't breaking me down, and it was the stuff that I carried. And I could easily have made that load lighter by carrying a few less things. I did swap out some of my EDC stuff for the Tech Week just because I couldn't fit everything. I mean, it all fit, but the bag was just like bulky. So I did take a few things that I would normally EDC that I didn't necessarily need. I took those out to put all the tech stuff in, and it carried pretty good. So all of that said and done, what are my final thoughts on this bag? Do I like the bag? Is the bag worth it? Ultimately, yeah, I like the bag. It's a good bag. I mean, it does come in some more tame colors, so if chartreuse isn't your thing, it does come in an OD or an all blacked out black, but the bag was comfortable. The only thing I'd say, I mean, the price point is $230 USD. I think they want to aim more for that $200 mark. I mean, that's their biggest competitor, is a $200 bag. That's the same, similar tri-zip in size. So I think maybe coming down to a $200 price point would be a little bit better. And I don't know if that's attainable because this is a very feature-rich bag, but if you do a couple of things like remove a few things here or there, like the grommet. Now, it seems simple, but if people have these grommets installed in like a rucker pack, I mean, you're spending like 35, 40 bucks to just have a grommet or two installed. So something as simple as not putting the grommet on, or that extra pocket on the inside the bag that kind of gets in the way, just remove those two features and they would probably be able to save a fairly decent amount of money and maybe pass that on to the consumer and get that price point down closer to the $200 range. I mean, $30 isn't going to break the bank either way, but yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing. I'd say maybe try to get it to a $200 price point, but other than that, I'm happy with the bag. It handled great. It stood up. I mean, a lot of people complain about this here logo because it's so big and it's in your face, but I don't mind it. I mean, I did a lot of urbex, so I wore a lot of respirators. So I come from a little bit of an exploration background where I like the logo. It doesn't bother me. So even though it's large and people think it's in your face, matching the color to the bag helps to kind of subdue it just a little bit. I think they had mentioned, I saw in a few online posts that they're gonna make the logo a little bit smaller maybe in the future. But personally, I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me at all. I even kept the logo patch on that they sent me because I like it. I just like the logo. So to me, that's a non-issue. But all in all, I'm happy with my No Surrender Gear Odyssey pack. It's a great pack. I actually want to use this on some more day hikes, but it's been like 25 degrees and we keep getting snow on the weekends, so it's really hard to take a 2-year-old out hiking when you got a foot of snow in the woods and it's 25 degrees and super windy. And also want to try it for travel, but can't really travel right now. So hopefully summer 2021, fall 2021, things look a lot better for us, and we can get out and explore the world a lot better. So yeah, I think ultimately the No Surrender Gear Odyssey pack, it's worth the purchase. It's worth your money. I don't think it's going to fail you in any way. All of the negatives aren't anything that would break the bank and make me just, or they're not deal breakers, make me just not want to buy the bag. So all in all, I'm satisfied with the bag. So if you like this video or any of my other videos, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Smash that big red button and ring that bell right next to it so you get notifications next time I post a brand new video. Good night.